It's no surprise that we've all been disappointed in the direction Marvel editorial has taken Spider-Man in recent years. Not even recent years, actually. In the last, 2 decades.
Merle, it's been our entire lives.
I grew up falling in love with characters like Spider-Man, and looking back on it, the characters that I fell in love with weren't even the mainline 616 universe. They were iterations like Spider-Man the Animated Series, Spectacular Spider-Man, and the comic run by Bendis and Mark Bagley, Ultimate Spider-Man. And comic Spider-Man, it feels like we've been reduced to just the worst elements of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Thomas.
I'm Merlin.
Together we're the Comic Lads, and today we're going to be talking about the only way to fix mainline Spider-Man.
He has just been dug into a grave, and it's like the grave's hole keeps getting bigger.
You know when Wanda pushes Vision, down to the Earth's core in Civil War? He's down there.
It's like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, where America Chavez going, uh-huh, and Marvel is Wanda going, Every time we think there's a new jumping on point for Spider-Man, the jumping on point ends up being tumultuous and painful.
Extremely so.
And we want to know from you, before we get into our own thoughts, how would you fix mainline 616 Peter Parker? Because we have our own thoughts that we're going to break down today.
They're pretty radical, but
that's what we need!
We need a big push.
Yes, we do. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.
I think we're going to have an aneurysm in this video.
No, legit, we are.
And before we get into it, guys, make sure to drop a like on the video. It really helps us out, and consider subscribing if you haven't already with notification bells turned on.
So getting right into it, we made a video a couple weeks ago talking about the current state of Spider-Man comics, and the list that we've gone through on that video, we'll just reiterate today. It is beyond recognition.
Can I just read our bullets here?
Go for it.
Norman Spider-Man. Pete's banging aliens in space. Ben is Chasm / pretending to be Pete. Mary Jane's Venom. Why? Pete's about to be Carnage right after Brock is Carnage, bro.
Spider-Man nowadays shares almost no similarities to what his starting on point was back in the 60s.
That's something that I wanted to talk about before, bro. Listen, kind of a crazy realization that I just made. We are not fans of 21st century Spider-Man. We only like Spider-Man up until his late 80s stories.
And people's love of Spider-Man doesn't come from the comic books. You look at something like Batman the Animated Series, his character is very closely resemblant of his comic counterpart.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is not the case. No. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, a lot of people's love of Spider-Man comes from him. Spectacular Spider-Man, a lot of people's love comes from that.
Every single adaptation of Spider-Man, no matter what medium it's in, only pulls from those early days of Spider-Man, because unfortunately, those are still his best stories and his most interesting stories.
And what are those aspects? Relatability, human nature,
fun, normal, human villains,
responsibility, power,
responsibility,
and relationships,
and street level stories.
Audiences first fell in love with Spider-Man in the 60s because he was a reflection of our own life.
Yeah.
And now there's nothing I can see in Peter Parker. A lot of people think we just like to hate and that we only spread negativity, and you guys are just all you do is yap and
just enjoy things, guys. Just enjoy bad content.
Yeah. And we want to put our money where our mouth is and talk about what things we do to save this character. And it's very simple. Nuke everything.
Reboot him. I know that's it sounds crazy, and I don't even know if I would trust the people that work at Marvel Comics now to do that well, but I don't want to keep going with the established canon. It's too much.
I mean, you have a problem when your fans are reading an alternate universe version of your character more than the mainline character himself.
Yeah.
And that's, again, a lot of people will say, well, you still have Ultimate canon. Not for much longer, we don't.
I got 24 issues of it. The book is selling like hotcakes. Why don't you just continue after? Have the universe get fixed, put the maker down, make some more good stories.
Agreed. I think when looking at Marvel's counterpart, DC Comics, you can see throughout its history, there have been some various hard reboots and soft reboots, and I think Marvel Comics is in desperate need of something similar to the New 52 reboot.
Now, I feel like that will explode people's minds, but it's not that crazy of a thought, because the New 52, while it did kind of shake everything up and make everyone new and hip and gritty and like Snyderific. That's not really what we're saying. We want a fresh start.
And when you look back on DC Comics history, I feel like there are certain blocks of time characterized by these soft reboots.
Yeah, for sure.
DC's always switching up their logo, and you can show me a DC logo from 2011, and I know that is New 52.
Yes.
You show me one from the 90s, I know, okay, that's the era of the 90s.
Post-crisis.
You show me one from Rebirth, I know that's DC Rebirth.
Yes.
And you can go through DC's history and bracket off certain parts of time based on that.
Yeah. I know not every DC reboot has been successful, and sometimes they can be even frustrating. But Marvel has had the same canon for almost 70 years now. It just gets a little ridiculous to follow. And to believe that, like, all this has happened in the span of, like, what, 10 years? It's ridiculous.
It is insanity. And like you said, it just makes it so when you look back on the entire history of a character, not just Spider-Man, but we are obviously looking at him as the focal point of this video.
Yeah.
There's too many things that has happened to this character that I'm like, if I were to write down everything that's ever happened to Peter Parker Spider-Man, he would be in Arkham right now. Something like New 52 or Rebirth is such a great jumping on point for new readers, and I know, like you said, there are aspects to those reboots that
Are a bit lackluster?
a bit lackluster, of course, but I, as a fan, I remember the days when they were announcing DC Rebirth and going to the store and trying to get issue 1 of all these new line characters.
Everything.
Yeah, and with Spider-Man, it feels like they try to artificially do that.
Yeah.
Where they'll relaunch the character at issue 1 and be like, oh, look, it's a new stepping on point.
But also, here's all this freaking baggage.
Yeah, here's all the worst things that have happened in the last 3 to 4 runs, and here's how we're gonna maybe rectify it, or maybe make things worse.
Yeah, and they like to play with our feelings and trick us into buying these new number 1s by being like, here, look, Spider-Man on the cover of his new number 1, he's got all his classic villains behind him. Who does he fight in issue 1? Itsy Bitsy?
Who is that? I, as a new fan, would not know who that is.
It feels like homework.
It really does. Marvel feels like homework, and it's the main reason why I feel DC is just absolutely crushing Marvel in sales.
They're bodying, like they're postering them.
WWE elbow slamming on them.
Hey, Freak Show! You're going nowhere! I got you for 3 minutes! 3 minutes of playtime!
Like, you look at the best-selling comic books throughout 2025, 90% of the top 25 were DC comics.
Bro, I think at least 15 of them had Batman in the title.
Marvel needs a reboot of some kind. I don't know if it's a soft or hard reboot. I know there's going to be people in the comments being like, well, that's what Secret Wars 2 was for.
But, like, it wasn't.
It wasn't, and it was just a way for Marvel to pick and choose which other characters would come into this main universe so they can profit off of us more.
Yes.
If you're gonna try to profit off of your audience, you have to do it subtly. Obviously, Rebirth and New 52 is just a new way to sell us all new toys,
Yes.
to get us to go see the movies, but I'm still, as a fan, excited for the new stories and the new jumping on point that creates.
Yes, and there were genuinely talented creatives at the helm of that. I know a New 52 style reboot sounds scary, but the great caveat with the New 52 is that it didn't necessarily have to reboot everybody. It rebooted the characters that had a really complicated history, namely like Superman, but for characters whose comics right before the New 52 were really popular, namely Batman and Green Lantern, their histories were allowed to stay the same because it didn't create any issues with the broader canon of the universe. So that same idea can be applied here if we were to reboot the Marvel Universe. Reboot it, take away all of Spider-Man's BS from the last 20 years. But for characters like, you know, the Fantastic Four, their canon is fine and doesn't really bother anybody, so you could just keep it.
I would see it drawing certain elements from the Bendis Ultimate Universe. And I know, of course, the Ultimate Universe definitely has its caveats too. I don't need to see the Blob eating the Wasp, you know what I'm saying?
I didn't even need you to bring it up.
I'm sorry. But like, for that, the history of Marvel still existed. The Avengers were there, Captain America had his whole World War II arc, but we got to jump on board with a fresh, new, young Peter Parker, meeting villains for the first time, having his love interest for the first time, and I think for me, that's why it's one of my favorite comic runs of all time. And actually, it's been the exact canon that's been most popularized in the current culture. A young teenage Peter Parker, down on his luck, doesn't get a date, nothing.
Isn't friends with superheroes. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, then you're just rehashing the Ultimate Universe. But that's not a bad thing. Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto proved to us that you can do it again and still come up with radically different new ideas for all of Spider-Man's mythos and have it still be fresh.
And it kind of reminds me of a quote that I really don't don't like about James Gunn, and just to preface, James Gunn, one of my favorite superhero directors of all time.
Absolutely.
But he said recently that every Batman story has already been told.
It's decidedly not true.
And a timeline like Absolute Batman, a fresh new rebooted universe, directly contradicts that.
It proves him wrong from the jump. Put a little elbow grease and use some creativity. There's endless potential for new stories with these characters.
Yeah, and I'm also just so sick of Marvel making a billion different tie-in comics for one character. There is so much to read nowadays just to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
To be a Spider-Man fan, like you said, it's all just homework now. And I remember the days when I was 5 years old going to the comic book shop, grabbing a new issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, and every week it felt like I was watching my favorite and most beloved character progress.
Yes. And now imagine you at that same age, instead of picking up Ultimate Spider-Man, you picked up 616 Spider-Man, and he was like finding out that he's like a totemic spider god and his powers don't come from a spider and he's fighting like energy vampires. It's just like, where's the Spider-Man that I know?
He doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, where's Spider-Man that is a guy who just tries his best to balance his life and superhero work and fights colorful bad guys?
Love it or hate it, if you open up a 616 Spider-Man comic nowadays, he's not the Spider-Man that you fell in love with. He may look like him, he may sometimes talk like him, but when you take the neighborhood out of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and you open up a comic book and Norman is fighting crime in New York City while Peter's in space with Timu-ass Guardians of the Galaxy making out with aliens, it's no longer Spider-Man.
There's no going back from all the stuff we've done to Spider-Man. We need a clean slate.
But what do you guys think? How do we save the Marvel Universe, and in particular, the Spider-Man character? And we want to let you guys know that we have our Comic Lads membership live on Patreon and YouTube.
On that membership, you get access to a ton of fun perks, like a 1 to 2 hour weekly podcast, access to our Discord server where you can chat with us any day of the week, and early access to every single one of our main channel videos.
All of that and more for only $2 USD a month, and we love all of you so dearly.
We love you.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.